Once you've finished working in the yarn ends, it's time to pick up and knit the button band. By convention, if this sweater is for a boy, we put the buttons on the right band, and for a girl, we put them on the left. We're going to knit this band to match the bottom rib, which is knit one, purl one, and we're going to use the same smaller needles that we used for this lower rib. If you consult your pattern that we have here, you'll see that the placket is 4 inches deep. Measure to see how close you came to this target. Hopefully you hit it right on, but if you didn't, it's okay. You can adjust the number of stitches you pick up along this edge to fit the actual length you have here. Now, and something fortuitous happened. Mine, as it turns out, is not bang on. It's a little bit long. My placket is actually about 4 1/4 inches rather than 4. So I'm just going to go with it. It's not a big deal. And it's also a great example to show you how even the best laid plans can fall apart a little bit. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, then what we have to do next is figure out how many stitches to pick up along this edge. I'm making this for a little boy, so I'm going to pick it up along here. And I want you to use an even number of stitches. So you might have to round up a little bit or round down a little bit. And the reason I want an even number of stitches is I want a purl on the public side down here and a knit on the public side up here. So that's why we need an even number. This is how I measure to figure out how many stitches I need. Notice your lower rib kind of gathers in at the bottom and then it widens out because we cast on here and it widened out. Well, why is that the case? Why isn't it just straight up and down? And that's because this stockinette is wider in gauge than this rib. And that's okay. That's not a problem at all. But this is going to be for our button band. We want it kind of straight out and not gathered. So I am going to gently tug this and I'm going to measure toward the top. Now in my case, I have 4 1/4 inches worth that I have to find. And let me set this right next to a knit stitch and see what I end up with when I get to 4 1/4 here. Actually, I'm going to put it, yeah, and I'm going to just count by twos, and I'm going to count the purl channels as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 at 4 inches, but I have 4 1/4. Well, 19. You know what? I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to go to 20 rather than 18 and stretch it. I could go to 18, but when in doubt, I like to have a little bit more generous. Let me count again. Always count. You can always count twice. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. Well, that's closer to 18. So I have to make a choice. Do I want to do 18 or 20? I think you know what, when I pull that in a little bit, there's the 20 will work. I'm going to go with 20 just because it makes me feel safer. I would rather have it be a little bit generous than to tug in because I don't want that to pull itself down. So now I have to pick up 20 stitches and I know how many rows I have. That part I did get right, even if my measurement's not right. In my case, I have 25 rows. So this is another opportunity for us to use the magical more or less right formula. So let's pull this in. And let's see if we can visualize this. I have 25 rows along here, right? And I have to skip some of those as I pick up my stitches. So I start with the number that I have right now, which is 25. And then my divisor is the number I either have to add or subtract. Well, I need 20 stitches, so I have to skip 5 of these rows as I pick them up along the edge. So magically, again, I am getting an even number. This is pretty astonishing. It doesn't happen very often, but 5 goes into 25 5 times. So 5 minus 0 is 5. I can add my 1 up here and come up with 6, but I'm going to skip every 5th stitch 5 times and every 6th stitch 0 times, so I don't even have to think about that one. So let me translate this into a practical approach to picking these up. I could start and pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to pick these up just the same way we picked up the sleeves, right? We're going to insert in that little line or channel between two. These are really long needles. They're clacking on the table. In between these 2 stitches. And you can see we're going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we could skip. But if we did that, our last stitch would be skipped, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I pick up that end stitch. So instead, I'm going to pick up 2, skip 1, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip the 5th one. And what will happen is I will end up skipping 1 and have 3 stitches left. I will have skipped all 5, but they have been evenly distributed and there's not a skip at the beginning or the end, and I like to do that. Now it's your turn. I'd like you to follow this whole sequence. First, measure the actual size of your placket. Second, count, measure the number of rib stitches you're going to pick up along your button band over here if it's a girl, which means if you're picking up for a boy, you're going to go from the bottom of the placket to the top, and if you're picking up for a girl, you're going to go from the top of the placket to the bottom. Use the more or less right formula to make sure you either round up or round down to an even number of stitches. Use the more or less right formula to know how many of these rows you're going to have to skip, and there will be rows that you'll have to skip as you're picking up. Pick up your band right in that channel between the end 2 stitches, just as you picked up the sleeves, and knit them down. Work back and forth in a knit 1, purl 1 rib until it's 1.25 inches, or however wide your placket is, which, by the way, my width came out just fine. It was my length that was a little bit off. And then bind off loosely in rib. Don't forget to have a purl facing you down here and a rib or a knit, facing you up here. And when you finish that, come back and we are going to talk about buttons for knits and sewing them on.